Heroes Like Us is a series intended at sharing comic book characters from various backgrounds and identities. We won't always get everything right, so feel free to make amendments and corrections in the comments. They're always appreciated. What's not appreciated, however, is any form of hate speech or intolerance, so comments of that nature will be immediately deleted and those users blocked from this channel. This is a place of education and celebration. Welcome to IAYTD and welcome to Heroes Like Us, and today we are looking at the identity of Vietnamese, and we're going to look at a handful, I think about 4 characters that are Vietnamese, and we're going to talk about what they do, their kind of backstory, some basic stuff, but just enough for you to go out and read about them and do more research if they're people that you find interesting. So first up, for Marvel Comics, we've got a mutant by the name of Karma. This is not the first time we've talked about Karma, but a basic summary. She is a telepath, most notably with the ability to possess others' minds, even to the point of possessing multiple people, controlling them for a long amount of time. That is kind of her thing. She was born and raised in Vietnam before she came to the US and joined the New Mutants under Professor Xavier. She stayed with them for a while. She kind of served in the school. She's been around for a long time, but she's never really been a substantial main character. When they created Karma, they gave her the name Xian, X-I-A-N, which is actually grammatically incorrect for the Vietnamese language. Not much they can do now, but they just refer to her as Shan now. Yeah, like I said, this is not the first time we've talked about Karma. We also talked about Karma in our Heroes Like Us lesbian video and our Heroes Like Us characters with disabilities video, because she is lesbian and she also has a amputated leg, and so she has a prosthetic leg that she uses. Up next from Marvel Comics, we've got a hero, vigilante, anti-hero by the name of Bengal. Bengal was born and raised in Vietnam, and his family was killed in an attack by the US Army during the Vietnam War, and he basically trained himself to become a warrior in order to come to the US and seek vengeance. He ended up crossing paths with heroes like Daredevil, Night Thrasher, until he eventually kind of started fighting for good somewhat. He eventually just gave up altogether, kind of retired, and now runs a martial arts school teaching other people how to fight. Again, not a very substantial character, but an interesting one. Up next is probably the most complicated character on this list, and that is Mantis from Marvel Comics. Now, Mantis is confusing because they gave her a history. She was around in the early days of Marvel Comics, and then there was a shift somewhere where she had a very complicated story, and she looks and has very different abilities now than she did then. She was born in Vietnam to a Vietnamese mother and a German father. The father was kind of involved with this Kree cult, which the Kree is an alien race, and they saw her as a potential, almost like goddess to be revered, that when she grew up, she would be something powerful. And so they worshipped her as this kind of, I think they called her like the something celestial Madonna, some sort of title. And it was kind of this crazy story. So throughout the actual story of her coming to age and getting these powers and stuff, they changed her look throughout the comics, where you could tell in the early days she looks like a Vietnamese woman, where now she looks like an alien. She's green-skinned, she has the little antennas, looks very different. And her power set is also kind of very different across the board. Usually it has to do with pressure points, and she's able to pinpoint people's weaknesses and fight them. But she also has some telepathic abilities. She's kind of picked up and lost different abilities throughout this whole span of time. She did serve on the Guardians of the Galaxy for a while, where she utilized this power to communicate with plants. And she used this power to help Groot regrow and rejuvenate after battle. So she did serve on the Guardians for a time. She is set to appear in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, played by Pomme Clementif, who is French, Russian, and Korean. And lastly, from DC Comics, we've got a character by the name of Cheshire, Jade Wynn, and she is half French and half Vietnamese. When she's a kid, she's sold into slavery. and she eventually teaches herself to fight enough to kill her owner. And she basically then kind of lives on the streets. She travels around and learns these various deadly skills to protect herself, including specializing in guerrilla warfare and then also specializing in poisons. So as she grows up, she takes on this name of Cheshire. In the comics, she does not wear any sort of mask. In the Young Justice cartoon, which she is probably most popular for, she does wear this grinning cat mask that is very iconic. So she's an incredible martial artist. She also tips her nails, her swords, daggers, everything in poison so that all it takes is one scratch to really do the job. So that is a handful of characters that are Vietnamese in descent. Are there others that you think we should talk about? We're always open to doing a part 2, and we're starting to do part 2s of other sort of identities. So if you think of others, let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it, and we'll see you next time on Heroes Like Us.